Just months ago, many were tipping Jose Mourinho's Tottenham Hotspur for Premier League glory. Now they face a fight to get even in the top four. We're going to have a look at what's gone wrong for Jose Mourinho and his side so far this season, and look at if they can turn the form around and really make a push for Champions League football. Welcome back to Over the Line Football. Make sure you subscribe and let's get right into the video. First of all, let's take a look at where Tottenham Hotspur currently sit with 22 games gone of their Premier League season, sitting 8th place with 10 wins, 6 draws and 6 losses. We wanted to go through a few points as to why, because there was a few results early on in the season that made you think that they could challenge for the Premier League. They had the manager in charge that you thought maybe could challenge for the Premier League. Now he's under massive amounts of pressure. We're going to list 3 things we think are causing kind of this slip up, and we're going to talk about maybe if they could turn it around in the back end of the season. First of all, probably maybe the most important, reliance on Harry Kane and Son Heung-min. 13 goals and 11 assists for Kane this season, 13 goals and 6 assists for Heung-min Son in the Premier League. First of all, kind of speaks volumes on how reliant they are on the pair of them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when Harry Kane wasn't in that team, when he recently got injured, he didn't score, did they? I don't believe, for a couple of games, definitely. But it's kind of hard to really replace Harry Kane and how good he is. So, if anything, Jose Mourinho should have probably brought in better players, which I'm going to come on to at just one of our points. I also feel like Heung-min Son and Kane before Mourinho came in, Spurs wasn't as reliant on them. As in Dele Alli was scoring, popping with the goals, and a few other players were coming in with goals themselves, like Lamela was scoring a bit in goals themselves as well. So for all of a sudden to suddenly be just literally those 2 players scoring week in, week out is quite worrying, I feel like. But I have no idea why all of a sudden he decided this to happen. I know in the Spurs documentary, Mourinho was saying he's heavily dependent on Harry Kane. He said that in the documentary lots of times before. But then you can't just basically make your whole team around him, because then, like I said, when he's getting injured, what are you going to do then?
Yeah, so I was going to say, if they're kind of not performing or an injury, it's typical that Spurs kind of tail off and aren't performing as well. Kane's kind of ankles are made of glass at this moment in time.
Pretty much.
And he seems to be getting a lot of injuries to him. And in recent weeks, while he's been out, obviously he came back the other day and they won, thanks to him. They've struggled to find a source of goals, and the same with Son. When Son's not on it, I know in particular both games against Liverpool, Son wasn't on it, and when Son's not on it and Kane isn't there, then Spurs aren't on it at all. But as we'll come on to later, I think Spurs' problems haven't been playing the big teams this season. It's been playing the lower league sides and teams that are just going to come up to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and play the sort of low block. But they need some sort of backup, don't they?
They have? Well, they do, yeah. We might as well come on to now if you want to.
Yeah, no, the second point was poor recruitment in the summer. Daniel Levy, obviously a big football man, likes to get the best deal possible, whether it's for Tottenham Hotspur or for himself, it remains to be seen. And it's a matter of opinion. I know Spurs fans will definitely say it's for himself. Just to recap of who they brought in this summer: Giovanni Lo Celso, Sergio Reguilon, Matt Doherty, Pierre-Emerick Højbjerg, Joe Rodon, Carlos Vinicius, Joe Hart, Gareth Bale.
And that's it.
The rest was on loan. Gareth Bale, obviously the standout Spurs lad coming back home. Did you think he was a Mourinho or a Levy signing?
I don't really know, but I thought it was a very, very good signing. It surprised me. They got him back to the club. I thought, okay, might actually make a title charge properly this season. As we all know, Mourinho likes to do well in his second season. Normally a poor first season usually, so he normally gets his players in the second season and really goes for it. So I did think the Carlos Vinicius signing was quite smart. He was the top goal scorer in the Portuguese league last season. Portuguese, sorry, yeah. So clever signing, but it's just obviously, like he said, he's only going to be back up, which is why he's only alone. So he's not been playing as often. I know he scored a hat-trick, didn't he? Well, against Mourinho, he does his little thing where he does that of his celebration. But I thought Højbjerg's a smart signing. As we've seen, he's probably one of the best players in centre mid from the season. It's quite surprised Southampton let him go, really. He's their captain for Southampton as well. Matt Doherty's just there to basically fill that hole that was left by, I believe, Kieran Trippier when he left. So, Lascelles, he was on loan the season before. So I think they got him on a permanent for this season.
Yep.
That's what it was. Reguilon, been a very good sign as well for left back. Danny Rose is to spit off the face of the earth.
Before we kind of speak about the bad, let's speak about the good. I think the only problem I had, and I would have if I was a Spurs fan with a Sergio Reguilon deal, is that there is a buyback clause for Real Madrid. So it did feel like it was kind of like, we don't know about this lad, we don't know if he could be Real Madrid quality. We'll send him out to you with a buyback clause. If he's any good, we'll just buy him back. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you felt that was the case.
I didn't realise. That's the first time I've heard about it.
Oh, you didn't know? Right, okay. So, well, he has a buyback clause. I don't know if that's a buyout in terms of like a buyout that any club can use, or it's a buyback purely for Real Madrid. But I know he has some sort of clause in terms of a buyback. So it kind of felt like, because I know Manchester United were interested in bringing Reguilon before they bring in Telles, and the reason United didn't sign him is because they wanted this clause Real Madrid. So it must be a buyback, and United just went, no, we want him permanently. We don't want this kind of cloud that he could move back. So Spurs kind of feel like a stepping stone, I want to say. But he's been fantastic since he's joined. Flying forward, he's pretty good defensively as well. But he's massively improved that left hand side for Spurs. Previously was helped by Ben Davies, Danny Rose.
That's it.
So he's massively improved it. And Pierre-Emerick Højbjerg, probably one of the standouts, as you say, centre midfielders in the Premier League. Really surprised me how well he's fitted in at Spurs. He's a powerful centre mid. He's not afraid to get forward, but he's also fantastic defensively. And he seems to have formed quite a decent partnership in the centre with Tanguy and Ndombele. Obviously, he wasn't recruited this summer, but was recruited the summer before. Looked like he was well out the door, but how good has he been this season?
Oh yeah, very good. I mean, like I said, I think it was like in the documentary when this is the worst player I've ever seen play. That's when something like that Mourinho said about him.
Yeah, he did seem like a kind of a Mourinho scapegoat at the time.
To get rid of him.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I think Ndombele's right. Okay, I might actually have a future here if he actually tries. And look what's happened. He's tried, and he's probably one of the best centre mids in the Premier League now, from the way he's performing. So I do feel like I said to you, the Højbjerg sign is very good. He just doesn't care. He flies into everything. I think was it Southampton last season? He got sent off 3 times in one season, and it just proves how much he doesn't really care. He's supposed to be their captain as well for Southampton last season. He just went flying into everyone. So it proves how much he puts everything on the line, basically. We want to talk about Gareth Bale.
Let's focus on Gareth Bale. He's obviously
I don't know what's going on there. I mean, like I said to you, I thought when he came in, I thought, wow, that's a great piece of business. I'm jealous that we managed to get him back, because obviously he's one of the in this past decade, he's probably one of the greatest players in the past decade, and obviously at the time he was the most expensive player in the world as well. So to have him back at Spurs, like I said, I thought, very good time. And he's just scored 1 goal, I believe, for Spurs in all competitions.
He scored like 1 or 2, not scored many, but not had the impact at all that he was expected to have. I don't know why he suffered such a drop off in performance. He's not played a lot for Madrid in the last couple of years. That may have probably impacted it. No matter how good you are, not playing football on a regular basis will impact your form. The way you play, how fit you are, because Gareth Bale can't last 90 minutes at the moment because he's either coming off the bench or he's starting in these cup competitions coming off 60 minutes. It's a shame for Spurs fans in particular, because it may have been that kind of X-factor player they needed to kind of, even if he was just coming off the bench, to win him the game. But he's just not been that at all, and he's been a very big scapegoat by Mourinho, and I think this is why, for me, it was a Daniel Levy signing and not a Jose Mourinho signing. Levy has looked at it and gone, in a pandemic where we're not getting anyone through the doors because obviously people can't go, the only money we're bringing into the club is through shirt sales, sponsorships. What better to do than bring one of your best ever players back to the club? So I think this screams a Daniel Levy signing. If you think different, please let me know in the comments. What's gone wrong with Gareth Bale at Tottenham, because we're probably just as baffled as a lot of Spurs fans. Maybe he's on loan, and is there an option to buy?
I assume
there is. Will they activate that at the moment? Probably not, especially with the wages he's on.
Yeah.
So he needs to have a decent second half to the season to help Spurs push into a top 4 spot for even Spurs to consider signing him on a permanent, especially with the wages he's on. But what would you say the Spurs squad are crying out for the most in terms of a transfer right now? Is it a backup to Harry Kane? Is it?
I don't even really know. I think it's just someone who's got Premier League experience. I think personally, I feel like Højbjerg
in a forward line, or
just in general anywhere in the squad. I feel like the squad just lacks creativity for me personally. When
Eriksen, obviously the biggest miss. Probably.
So, but I just feel like when you see Spurs play, we want to come on to in a minute. Well, the next point is about Mourinho's play style. We feel like when Spurs play, there's no flair play to anything they do. There is more pass around the back and hope for the best and hope for a counter attack, which is Mourinho's play style. But it'd be interesting to see Mourinho, when Mourinho does leave eventually, if those players that are still there perform differently.
Yeah, Christian Eriksen's move to Inter Milan was a bad one for Spurs, because obviously you've seen in the documentary that Spurs wanted him to stay, but Eriksen just kind of wanted a change in scenery, which is normal in a player's career. They seem to have found a decent creative spark in Ndombele. Certainly a very unique footballer, the kind of way he operates. He's for like his stature and his skill. He's so, I don't know, he's got such a big build, but he plays like such a player that's such like a low centre of gravity. He's fantastic on the ball. He's got great vision, and he's got great power as well. So he's a fantastic player, and they seem to have found, I don't want to say a gem because obviously it's far too early, but it's probably good for Spurs that they've paid so much money for him, and now he's starting to show some sort of quality. The quality that he's shown at Lyon. So
yeah.
But I agree, they're probably missing a creativity, but I just think they're missing a plan B. There's Vinicius, of course he looks like a decent player, but I don't think he's ever going to come in and be just a proven goal scorer as of yet. I think they need someone as a backup to Harry Kane. I don't know. I know there's from kind of working around City, there's probably a chance that they may be able to, I don't know, like a Danny Ings. Danny Ings is obviously in contract negotiations with Southampton at the moment. I think the problem
is that the ball isn't going forward. So with Tottenham, when they have the ball, you don't see them have many touches in the boxes, and you can have any striker at the top, and then if they don't get the ball, they're not going to score.
True.
So I think that's what's happening. So if Vinicius does get the ball, he might have probably better chances, but like I said, the ball's just sticking in the two CDMs, Højbjerg and Ndombele, just passing sideways and backwards. The ball isn't going forward. So eventually, when the ball does reach the Kane and Son, you don't have many chances. You look at the chances ratio to like goals and stuff like that, it's probably one of the best in the world because you don't get many chances. So I do feel like it doesn't really matter who you have; they just not really get the chances they need, for example. So that's why I reckon what's going wrong basically for Spurs is getting the ball forward quicker, because like they're quite good on the counter attack, yes, but then they have 3 people go forward in their counter attack, for example. Because obviously Højbjerg and Ndombele will stay back, because we'll go on to it now. Mourinho's play styles, very defensive like nature in football. So very similar, I feel like, to Gareth Southgate in the fact he has 2 CDMs and just basically has everyone forward to counter attack all the time, hope for the best. So I do feel like that if say you had 1 CDM and maybe played 2 flat centre mids like Man United have done, for example. So you see Man United quite well in the counter attack. You see Pogba a little bit further forward, for example. And see probably players like Mason Greenwood who are a little bit forward as well. Possibly not centre mid, but more forward wingers that can progress with the ball forward. So Heung-min Son will do that, but Gareth Bale isn't doing it at the moment. He's not even starting for Spurs. He's not progressing those balls forward to the players like Harry Kane, for example. So when you see Spurs on their counter attack, it's literally just Son running through from basically his own box and trying to run forward and try and pass the ball to Kane. That's all they're doing. So it is quite bad to see, but I don't. It may work into likes of City, for example, with the counter-attacking football, because City will just literally pass around you all day.
Yeah, the top side.
But there's only going to be a certain point where I think Mourinho's quite lucky there's no fans in.
Yes, 100%.
Because there have been riots. There would be, I reckon, the way he plays. It's scandalous how he's getting away with it.
Not riots, but there'd definitely be a lot more pressure on him than there is now.
So,
but I agree with you. I think the main point you've got to make about Mourinho's playstyle is, for one, he's very, I want to say arrogant, but that's what made Mourinho brilliant.
Three downs.
Yeah, he's very arrogant, but what makes him brilliant? But he will not change his play style, no matter what. And maybe, like you say, it works against a lot of the top sides. Like, it caused Liverpool a few problems. Anfield, they probably should have won that game.
I don't know what's gone on that game.
Yeah,
that was just a weird day
game.
For Liverpool as well.
They beat City, who are now flying at the top of the league. But against teams in the sort of low block, teams that are like West Brom. I know they beat West Brom the other day, but the teams that have come and played low block against them and took points off them, that have just sat on the edge of the box and asked Spurs to break them down. They've not got that creativity that you mentioned. Because Son and Kane
can only do so
are
much.
being double. Like, I think a good point that you made was that Son obviously is doing it on his side, but the person on the right, whether it's Eric Lamela, Gareth Bale, etc., are not doing it. So teams are knowing that because they're not threatening as much, they can just double up on Son and keep him as quiet as possible.
Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes the quality shines through, but they need other options in there because at the moment they're so reliant on Kane and Son. And that was the thing I always said when they were like, oh, Spurs are in a title race. I was like, well, yeah, results-wise at the moment, you've got to put them up there, but what happens when Kane and Son, because they're not going to perform as good as they were forever, what happens when they have a drop-off? And they had a drop-off and Spurs subsequently had a drop-off too.
Is that Man United game when they play Man United? You see like Sergio Aurier burst into the box and scoring a goal, like because they were confident and they basically free-form them what they want because they just about Man United in the ropes. But you just don't see that now with Mourinho all of a sudden. Like just like a one-off game where you just went, stuff it, just do what you want, lads, against at Old Trafford. So I can see you see all the fullbacks getting to the box all the time. The fullbacks doing all enough on Man United's byline. How forward do all the time. So I feel like he just plays like low block against every single team. No matter what, doesn't change. He hasn't got a plan B, like you said before about the Harry Kane situation. So say you play against Burnley at home and the fans are in there and you have 2 shots on target the whole game. It's how are you going to progress forward?
Anyway, thank you lot for watching. Be sure you go and follow all our socials, all linked below, and we'll see you on the next video. See you later.